Joe D'Aloisio here alongside Dr. Joseph Stabile, Professor of Biology, Interim Associate Dean here at Iona College. Dr. Stabile, thanks for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And now the reason why we bring Dr. Stabile on is to discuss hurricanes. We're all aware of what's been going on in the United States, the Virgin Islands, how much damage these hurricanes have done as of late. So let's start with the basics. How exactly do hurricanes form?
All right. Well, hurricanes form off the coast of West Africa. So the hurricanes that hit us and hit the Caribbean and Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands actually start off as low pressure systems off the coast of Africa. And what feeds the hurricane are warm water temperatures. So hurricane season usually begins around the beginning of June. As the waters warm up, what happens is hot, moist air rises up off the water. And as it's rising, you would think, okay, it's just rising. But it just doesn't rise. What happens is, as that warm, moist air rises, it begins to spin. And it begins to spin because of the spin of the Earth. The actual rotation of the Earth gives the hurricanes that counterclockwise spin that we see. This is called the Coriolis effect.
Okay.
So maybe as a kid, if you remember, you ever go on a merry-go-round as you're a kid?
Yeah.
And you try to walk off, and what happens to you?
You're dizzy.
You get dizzy, but you also wind up deflecting. And so the spin of the Earth gives the hurricanes that counterclockwise spin.
Okay. Now, why would you say, is there any specific reason as to why this season specifically that the hurricanes are so active?
Right. So we have a very active season this year. And there are a couple reasons. One is the water temperatures are a couple degrees warmer than they normally are. Hurricanes begin to form, you get that moist air rising when the sea surface temperatures get to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. This year, we've had above normal temperatures. The second thing that happened that a lot of people don't realize is that when that hurricane begins to form, the air currents around the hurricane have to be calm. We had an El Nino in the Pacific Ocean, which gave us the warm temperatures. Normally during an El Nino event, you don't get hurricanes forming, at least you don't get this kind of activity. But some point in the spring, in April and May, the El Nino stopped and we went to our normal kind of water temperature in the Pacific, and that gave good conditions for the hurricanes to really form. And so we're having a very active hurricane season for two main reasons: the breakup of the El Nino and the warm sea surface temperatures.
So you just mentioned the warm sea surface temperature. Now, does this climate change have any type of responsibility of this active season?
Very good question. In theory, as the waters warm due to climate change, we're going to get more hurricanes and more intense hurricanes. So a lot of people are speculating right now that the very strong activity of this hurricane season and plus hurricanes that we've had recently, like Sandy and Katrina, are due to climate change. There's not really enough evidence yet to really make those types of, causations, that kind of saying, that's definitely climate change. However, it's suggestive that the climate change is having an impact.
So with that being said, is it more likely that we're going to see more storms that have this much of an impact on societies?
Yeah, definitely. So again, as the climate change is occurring, and if all the models hold true, yes, we're going to see more storms and more intense storms in the future.
Now, you mentioned earlier when season begins. At what point does it end?
Very good question. So the hurricane season officially ends November 30th. And again, why? Because the water's cool. So as the water's cool, you lose that energy that feeds the hurricanes.
Okay. So now, in terms of places or people who weren't affected with hurricanes, any piece of advice if you live in an area that is typically affected by hurricanes, how they should take precaution when a hurricane's about to hit, or if they're expecting?
If they're expecting. Well, part of the problem with hurricanes, again, each hurricane is a little different. So if you look what's happened recently, right? Think about Katrina. that was very different. That's a hurricane that kind of looped around. Sandy was different. Irma's different. Maria was different. And so each hurricane's a little different. You have to really pay attention to the forecast. If you live in a low-lying area where you can have storm surge and they tell you to evacuate, you better evacuate, okay, without question. And again, you know, there are lots of resources for people to learn about hurricane preparedness and materials they should have in their homes. So if people would like to go to NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Association, their website has tons of information on hurricane preparedness.
Now, and just stepping away lastly, away from the science, but in general, people who aren't affected by these hurricanes, how can they help and play a role in either, you know, rebuilding society that has been affected?
Right. Well, again, we have, in general, you can obviously donate to you know, organizations like the Red Cross. And so you can do that very easily. As an Iona College student, you can get involved with the mission trip. All right, so we have a wonderful campus ministries program here, and we have our students go and do these things all the time. So we've had our students go to New Orleans and help rebuild people's homes after Katrina. We've had our students go to Baton Rouge. So last year, Baton Rouge was flooded by a tremendous storm, and our students have gone down and helped rebuild homes. So if you're inclined to do that, and I hope our students are, because I know our students, go to the campus ministries, go talk to Steve, Mr. Steve Hill, and you can get involved and do plenty of things to help people that have been affected by hurricanes.
Dr. Stabile, thank you for all the great information. Really appreciate you stopping by today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joe.
For Iona College, I'm Joe D'Aloisio.